It's really more about the sound of the room. I think the room is very special. If you want the sound of all those classic records that have come out of here, I believe the room is the biggest contributor to that sound. Sound City is obviously a very famous, well-known studio. A lot of amazing stuff has been done here over the years. If you just watch the Sound City documentary that Dave Grohl made, it fills you in quite well, and they did a lot of great research and have all the history there. I've worked here as a producer since the early 2000s. I used to come here when it was a commercial studio. I heard of the room becoming available, the building becoming available, from a very close friend of mine, and I immediately came over and spoke with the owner, and we worked something out. It's kind of like moving into an old house that you love, and it just needs some attention. You don't want to change it, you just want to restore it to what it was. That's the goal I had and the mind frame I was in when we moved in here. So now Fairfax is a recording studio, which used to be Sound City. It's a record label, which we have in the building, and the publishing company is also in the building. I like to think of it as more of a self-contained, old school record label, really. A record label that has its own studios and keeps everything within the building, more of like a Stax or a Motown way of doing things in that sense. So this is the control room for Studio A, and what we've put in here is an old Altec console. This is called an Altec 9200. Over the years, I've had so many different types of gear and vintage gear and tried different things out, and we've really just simplified down to what we find that we need here to work. I think it's really important to point out, though, that it's really more about the sound of the room, in my opinion. I think the room is very special. If you want the sound of all those classic records that have come out of here, I believe the room is the biggest contributor to that sound. Some of a room sounding special and unique and great, I think, is just the luck of the draw. Like, it's just, you can plan and plan and plan and map out, but you got to build it, and when it's done, you're kind of crossing your fingers and hoping for the best. I think that's what happened here. I think there was a certain amount of luck that was involved. Where it's placed, how it's shaped, the fact that there are no outside walls on either side, only on the far end, and probably the cheaper materials possible. When we were kids and you played in school band, it looks like the exact same material that was in the band room. Whenever I walk into a studio that was built with a lot of money as opposed to a lot of ears, never seems to sound good as the more cheaply, pragmatically built studios.
So for this Addictive Drum session, we set up our drums in here, sort of centered between the left and right walls, facing out towards the control room. And this ends up being a great spot because you can get a really wide image of the whole room from where the drum set perspective is. And it's also really well balanced from left to right here. Nevermind's drums would have been recorded right here, as well as the heavier stuff like the Rage Against the Machine records and Weezer and anybody else. Later Tom Petty records, all down in this area here.
The first kit we have here is a 1970s Gretsch stop sign badge kit, known also as a drop G, which means it's from the 70s. This kit was chosen because it's just a really well-rounded kit. Its sustain is really consistent, it's got a lot of punch about it, and it's great for pitch. It's really great for tuning to a certain pitch, which came in handy for this particular session. Next to it over here we have the other kit, which is also a Gretsch kit, but from the 60s. The difference between these two kits, this one here being a slightly more round vintage sound because it's a 3-ply shell and it's made in the 60s, as opposed to the 6-ply 70s kit. Here we have the standard rock sizes, 13, 16, 22. This one in particular has something special about it. It's a magic kit. The snare drums that we used, first of all, there's a 70s olive badge Ludwig Black Beauty, 14 by 6.5. There's a 1920s Ludwig 2-piece brass. The next one here is kind of a special drum, especially for this room. This is a Tama Bell brass snare from the 80s. People who know snare drums know that this is kind of the holy grail of snare drums. It's nicknamed the Terminator in Los Angeles because it's used on almost every rock record from the 80s and 90s. This drum was used on the Nevermind record, Nirvana, and this is the same room that was made in. It's a bit of nerdy history for you. The next one here is the custom drum made by Johnny Craviotto here in California. This is a 3-piece steam bent snare drum. We've got walnut, cherry, and maple. It's a 14 by 6.5. Johnny's drums are really, really great. He's a custom drum builder here in California.
I have a stereo pair of U67s set up, and they're facing away from the kit, hoping to grab as much of the sort of sound splashing around the room as it can. And then I've also got a pair of Coles mics, which are pointing towards the kit, but are just sort of far away enough to get a good balance of direct sound versus the reflected sound, as they're a bidirectional microphone. The 251 is capturing a mono sort of entire kit sound, but also has a bit of room in it. For close mics, I've been putting 57s on the top and bottom of the snare, and I also have an option of a 414 on the top and a 421 on the bottom to give different sort of sonic options as far as both timbre and the attack and dynamic of the mic, and as far as frequency response is concerned. And on toms, we did another combination of a 414 and a 421 on top. And cymbals, we've been using the C24. And as far as getting a great picture of the overall drum set in stereo, the C24 does a really great job. And because it's got two capsules that are really close together, it also works well. It also is very mono compatible. So if you want to sort of tighten up the stereo image of your drums, it's a lot easier. If you've got two mics that are close together, you avoid the delay-based comb filtering effects. For the kick drum, we have a couple different sizes of these Gretsch drums, which sound really great in this space. We have a 421 as an option that's pretty close to the beater, a little bit off axis. And then I also put a D112 out in front of the kit, sort of pointing into the port on the front head. And blending between those gives you a really great flexible option between a lot of punch and click and a little bit more boom and body. And probably somewhere right in the middle between a blend of those two mics to get you a really great drum sound. For the Addictive Drum session, we use primarily the preamps that are in our console here. It's from the late 60s. It's all discrete. It's transformer coupled in and out. It's very, very clean and neutral sounding, but there isn't a lot of other circuitry in there to get in the way. So again, whatever you're recording comes through pretty clean and natural sounding. So there's nothing to hide behind in recording like this. So you really have to make sure everything is where it's supposed to be out in the room, and with the performance and the musical instruments to make sure it works properly when it comes into this room.